Thank you for being here. I am Taylor Franklin. In front of you, this is the junior high band, the 7th and 8th grade band. Thank you for being here tonight. It has been a wild few weeks. We've had the last 2 weeks of wonderful TCAPs and testing, so they're exhausted. And we had a full day of rehearsal today. So without waiting, I'm sure you'll know the first two pieces. We're going to start with Star Wars and move right on to the Adams. All right, just a couple of notes. I always have to say a few thank yous at a concert. What we do, it's different from a traditional classroom, as I'm sure you have seen, and I'm sure that many of you that were in band, you understand. It's just not a traditional classroom. So without the support of our administrators, it is very difficult to do anything successful in our area because there's so much that goes into it. There's so many moving parts. So I would love to say a thank you to our administrators. We've had a lot of support this year, especially at the district level. So Miss Stephanie Husky on down, and then our administrators here. We'll have the high school here in a minute. So Mr. Stinnett over here and at the junior high, Dr. Bennett. And secondly, I would like to thank you as the parents. It takes a lot of support. There's a lot of Financial decisions that go into this, you get that first rental form in 5th grade or sometimes 8th grade. You say it's $77 to rent an instrument. Then some of you go look to buy an instrument, you see how expensive it is. We just want to say thank you for being here and supporting your students in music education, because more than half of these students will be in the 8th grade or in the high school band here in about a month, which is kind of crazy to think about. But they're excited about it and they've come a long way. And then I guess thirdly, I want to say thank you to our Band Booster organization. They are super helpful in helping us raise funds and getting to where we need to go, especially on the high school side. It takes a lot of financing, frankly. It takes a lot of support. I think they have some refreshments out here for you tonight after this is over. But I just want to say a couple of those thank yous. I'll stop talking now. Next will be praises. I will say there's a lot in that that has pushed them quite a bit. There's a lot of different parts going on, and then there's a lot of, in some sections there's 3 parts to an instrument, and in some sections, as you can see, we only have 3 people per instrument. So a lot of the students are playing their own part with not a lot of support around them. So they've come a long way. This has pushed them a lot, but this has been good for them for sure. That was our hardest piece. Next, we have Highlander Anthem.
Where's Mr. Harrell?
I would like Mr. Harrell to speak for just a minute about this, if you would.
Dr. Franklin was talking about all the new changes and all the chaos over the last couple of years. I have been the constant here, my 27th year, for good or bad, on this end of the county, my 30th year in the system. I'm glad you're clapping and not too many boos or vegetables, you know. This year has been a great year. I've had some apprehensions. Our head director is a little less than half my age. He's still in his 20s, can you believe that? With a doctoral degree. I never got mine. But it's been a privilege to work with him this year. I'll say more about that later. Make him a little nervous. But these kids have worked hard, and I think they've had a good year. Have you all had a good year? High school? Yeah! You all had fun. I mean, in the last couple of years, they're still suffering. People have had to move. They've lost their homes. Fires we had before that. We just had fires last month. And still they're here. Some of these faces started in Pittman Center. Some came from other places, but they're here. How many of y'all are going to move into the high school next year? Okay. All of us, I think, knew Mr. Ogle, who was principal here. I knew him at several of their schools before. He's a brilliant man. How many of you have noticed the Highlander anthem we are playing at the football games? You know, Mr. Ogle wrote the words to that. And we tried to introduce it when he was principal here, and it really didn't take off. And the first meeting that Dr. Franklin and I had, I threw that out there, that it was in existence. And we reintroduced it. It gives the school an alma mater that is its and no one else's. And that creates tradition, good traditions. My school had an alma mater on the county's northern border, reared against the sky. Proudly stands my alma mater, good old Powell High School. That's pathetic, it didn't even rhyme. They've got a good one here. I think it'd be cool if the junior high had one. But it needs to be written by somebody here that has a connection. I'm from Anderson County, I'm a foreigner. But my parents had their honeymoon in 1948 at the old hotel in Gatlinburg. It was torn down years ago. But if somebody wants to write that or encourage it, we can do the music part of it. But now they're going to play it, and some of them, it will be their alma mater next year. Some of you, it'll be 2 years from now. I'm going to shut up now. I stepped out of this stage today and I really felt like a pawn in the system. It was her chessmate. I'm gonna quit being silly, Mr. Harrell, for a minute. I want to say a couple of things. The next piece, we didn't plan to put this program with two big Russian pieces on it. Certainly not in the current world climate. One of my favorite professors in college was a gentleman by the name of Pyotr Horoditsky. He was Ukrainian. He worked with Matvey Zamanovich, who came as concertmaster in the Knoxville Symphony, Russian, spoke almost no English. I asked Dr. Horoditsky, I said, how do you speak together? He said, oh, I speak Ukrainian, he speaks Russian, we understand each other. It's tragic that I think 2 months ago, they were very much the same people. And now, they will be different for generations. And I was a child of the Cold War. Anybody remember Duck and Cover? Cute little turtle that jumped in the shell and protected us from the bomb. We had nuclear weapon drills like they have fire drills. We thought of people from the other side of the world as something else. It's easy to dislike and hate them. But then as a teenager, when I got into music, I heard the music of Pyotr Tchaikovsky, heard Modest Mussorgsky, Nikolai Rimsky-Korsakov, Sofia Kuperdulovna. And it moved me like nothing else had. We all have within ourselves great beauty and the potential for great evil. I wish bad things for a certain president of a large country. But I feel very much the tragedy that are people like us on both sides. In Europe, I've been to England 8 times. My last teacher was an Englishman, strange Englishman. Not as strange as a Welshman. We don't have any of those here. Oh, I'm sorry. You didn't hear that, did you? We have some wonderful Welsh students in here. In Europe, I think the arts matter more. Here we have for the honor band, we had our superintendent and 3 central office people there for the first time. A lot of people in politics don't understand what we do in the arts. I've been very happy about that. But I was thrilled when our superintendent came. But also the arts can be weaponized. Nazi Germany did it, and Soviet Russia did it badly. The next composer, Dmitri Kovalevsky, was a victim of that as much as anybody else was. He has large works. He lived from 1904 to 1987. He was in trouble. He was a merited artist of the Soviet Union. He wrote large-scale pieces in Soviet formal realism style. I was going to be a music history professor with this, especially in Russian Soviet music. I'm getting to do that right now, whether you like it or not. Those pieces are not where he was. These little pieces, these next 3 were originally for piano and for children. And in that, it was like the notes that told the real story that got passed around quietly. This was the real music that the man created. His large works he had to fit to what a government wanted him to be. These pieces, he could be what he was. The first one is a good piece of music. The second one, he just calls it a little song. It came right up to the You can make of it what you will. The last one is called The Horseman. I've never been to St. Petersburg, but there's a famous statue of Peter the Great on horseback. Propaganda by his successor, Katerina II, known as Catherine the Great. And I think it's the hopes for a great people. And it's fun. It's a good piece. Hope you enjoy this music of Dmitri Kovalevsky. original score. We call it artistic license. Putting a positive spin on things. The next piece will be the first time that I've conducted here, though it was the first thing I conducted and the only thing I ever got to conduct with possibly the most influential music teacher I ever met, ever had. He was an Englishman by the name of Sir Vivian Dunn. Vivian is a man's name in England. His wife's name was Marjorie. She went by Mike. He said regimental dinners, they came as Vivian and Marjorie, people got the wrong impression. So he was Vivian, she was Mike. I studied with him when he was 79 and 80 years old. He was a good friend of mine, college band director, Dr. W.J. Julian. They were both World War II people. He was Royal Marines, Dr. Julian was a Navy commander in the South Pacific. So I met him here. He had known the composer Elgar, Pomp and Circumstance. I was fascinated with it. And much to my mother's horror, I asked him if he would take me as a student. So I got on the plane, I went across the pond, I stayed in a squat in London with a New Zealand jazz saxophonist friend. Not the type of people my grandmother would really, And it was the best thing I ever did. Then the next summer I did it for the whole summer. I'd take the train out to Litchfield and be berated by Sir Vivian 2 times a week. But he opened up the world of, I didn't know it, education. Because if you've seen music here, it's not even pretty on the page. It's just lines and dots, black and white, yes or no, like a TCAP test. That's not life. But within that is something magical. And these kids understand that. And that's what we're trying to do, like no other class here. So this is Sine Nomine March. I was raised in Anglican, Episcopal. This comes the day after a certain holiday that we really like as children, All Hallows Eve, Halloween. In the Anglican Church and Catholic Church the next day is the All Saints Day. For all the saints, all those good people whose names have been forgotten, they're celebrated on that day. This is a hymn by the great composer Ralph Vaughan Williams, English, for all the saints who from their labors rest. Thy name, O Jesus, it rhymes with blessed. Be forever blessed, there it is. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. It's exuberant music, it's hopeful, it's English, it's wonderful. And there's tradition in it. It's the last point I want to make. So Vivian said to me, an Englishman is an Englishman. Stiff upper lip, Cheerio, that stuff. You see a German score, there are long sentences by Gustav Mahler about how he wants everything done and the passion he wants in it. We don't say that, but we feel it nevertheless. So there are some things that we do in here. Big pullback, we call it ritornado, it's not written on the page. So Vivian told me, this is how you do it. And I did it, but I wasn't committed. He said, later on you'll be committed, you'll understand when you're older. I'm older. And he said, it's tradition. The composer gave it to me, I give it to you. I scheduled this piece twice before, and 2 of my former colleagues decided they wanted to conduct it. They didn't do the tradition. Dr. Franklin's letting me conduct it. So. This is Sine Nomine March by Ralph Vaughan Williams.
you, I will be brief, but I must recognize just a few students. What we do every day, it takes all of them to make the ensemble we have. And they work very hard day in, day out. We started the middle of July, and we've been working every week since, and it is now going on May. So I promised to give them a break in June, and we'll start back in July again, but there are students that go above and beyond. They work really hard outside class on their own. They sign up for things and go compete for spots for things, sometimes in our general area, sometimes in all of East Tennessee, sometimes in all state. I must recognize Jackson Smith, if you wouldn't mind to stand. He made the All-State East Jazz Clinic and represented our school at Walker Valley High School in Cleveland, Tennessee for the Jazz Clinic this year. Secondly, Jackson, if you'll stay standing, and Juliet, if you would stand. We had 2 students make the All-State East Band Clinic. It happens to be held at the Park Vista here, but all of East Tennessee shows up here to play in some of the best ensembles that East Tennessee has to offer. And these 2 students represented us incredibly well that week in February. So. As Mr. Harrell alluded to very briefly earlier, what we started doing the year before COVID hit for the very first time was an all-county and all-district honor band. And that was to take the absolute best students from the 5 county high schools that we have here in Sevier County. And we were able to do that for the 2nd annual event this year. That happened just a couple of months ago, and it was wonderful. It gives the students, a larger number of students, to put a very quality ensemble together to play just top band literature. We bring a guest conductor in. It was Mr. Ron Rogers this year. And if you were a part of that group, if you were invited to play with them, if you would please stay. Students do so many things outside of band. We are grateful to have them. I'm thankful for them. They work very hard for us, as I'm assured that they do in the other groups, and the other organizations, and the other classrooms that they have. But we're thankful to have them. We're thankful for how they represent us within our district and outside of our district. So thank you. Next, we have selections from pictures at an exhibition.
As a person who writes music, form is the best thing. If you're writing an opera, I'm sure all of us aspire to write an opera. I haven't written one. Third act is the long one, where the story is told. The fourth act should bring everything full circle and bring us to a conclusion. Dmitri Kovalevsky had a motto: beauty encourages kindness. Strange here, coming out of Russia. What is human? Beauty, music, encourage us to be kind. Modern technology does the opposite. I got rid of my social media. I was fighting with too many people, and I was really good with words. I was winning, and I was enjoying it. We need to be more civil. A young student here, Jake Starter. One trip I made during COVID was to Charleston. My mother's family was from Charleston, South Carolina. I mentioned to Jake if I was going. He said, "Can I go with you?" And I thought, I don't want to take a college student to Charleston. But I relented. We did a tour of one of the houses I grew up around. And he said, "Oh, so many rules." And I thought about it, and you know, those rules were there for a purpose. They kept us more civil to each other. We might still hate someone's guts, but we wouldn't say it in public. And if we thought about it, we might change our mind. Whereas if we say it, it makes it worse. People still cheated and they steal, but if they got caught, they were embarrassed. Now they write a book about how they did it. So, not the last piece, this also has an English influence. Pevensey Castle, where William the Conqueror landed in 1066. It's not far from London. Age of chivalry, knights and ladies, gentlemanliness, ladies, all of that. The gentleman is a rare breed today. And I've had the privilege this year to work with one, a young one. It drives me crazy a little bit. My first supervisor, Mr. Larry Stott, said it takes 5 or 10 years to really make a teacher, and with me it did. I knew my subject matter, and I could deal with these. 10-year-olds could take me apart. And it was hard for me to put it back together by the next morning. It took a long time to get to do that. Dr. Franklin is the real thing. And he is a gentleman. There's the right soul in the man. And we are privileged to have him here at this school in this county. I just wanted to say that publicly. There's not too many of them left. And one of them is half my age, and it doesn't bother me that much. So thank you for coming out. Because the future of us and our civility begins with you in the home. I didn't have children. I was afraid of really messing it up. But you've got them, and some of them are really going to be good for the future. Thank you for that.
lastly, we have Shepherd's Day. But I just want to plug in a quick reminder, the band trip is coming up very soon. This is the first spring band trip, or any band trip in a really long time other than football games and competitions. So that's coming up in just a few weeks. The next payment, depending on what you owe, whether you have paid the down payment or paid the deposit, or you've had profit for various fundraisers, we're requesting that next week, and then anytime the final payment, whatever that remaining balance is, before we leave to go on the trip. It could be the morning of, that's fine, but whenever you can get that in, that would be great. But without further ado, the last piece, Shepherds. Thank you very much for coming out tonight. I hope we didn't speak too much, but we appreciate you and your support and all your students' efforts. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.